Howdy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Howdy. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. Hold on, let me get your cam up properly.
No problem.
Do to do. How's your day been?
It's been good so far. A little nervous for this, but yeah, it's been fun so far.
Oh, nothing to be nervous about. Hold on. Just a second. Let me get this proper. I'm really bad at maneuvering slobs. Just a second. Do 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 do. How's quarantine treating you?
Oh my lord, it's been hell. It's hectic for sure. Yeah, it's weird. It's strange. It's like the one big thing that's happened in my generation, so it's really weird to be looking at right now. How about you? How's it been
There you
going?
go. It hasn't really affected my livelihood at all.
Oh,
I didn't leave the house that much anyway. Um,
great.
wait, you said your generation. What wait, how old are you?
I am 24.
Oh shit, you're younger. What the fuck? Okay, all right.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Ah, gotcha.
So yeah, chat. This is, or would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Josephine. That's the name of my YouTube channel. And I'm a social political commentator. And I also freelance for the National Post, which has been really, really fun. And yeah, I've been gone for a while. So this is sort of my comeback type thing happening here.
Oh, welcome back.
Mhm.
It you so if I may begin, I've looked through prior to speaking to you many of your videos, and your height or your heyday, politically speaking, was before I started my channel, so I didn't like get the opportunity to yell at them in like in a topical sense or anything like that. But I'd say there was probably a fairly decent level of disagreement between them. But I was really surprised when you emailed me because I recognized your name. And would you mind telling me like why did you want to talk?
Why did I want to talk? Oh, Lord. Well, to be honest, I felt that out of a lot of the commentators or people on YouTube that I can speak to, I felt like you would probably be the easiest person to sort of speak to, and I think that's because sorry, start over. I got really nervous there. I
Not at
love your
all.
stuff, and I think your work is really cool, and it's well that I've created videos on my own and things like this. I
Oh,
just sort of talk about my journey on YouTube and where I am now, and as well as my old views and what I disagree with and all of that stuff.
gotcha. Um, yeah, no, fantastic. First of all, I really appreciate the compliment. You know, I try my best. I'm sure we all do. Yeah, would you mind then? Because you definitely know more about yourself than I do. Would you mind like how did you get into YouTube to begin with? This was back in 2017, right?
Yes, like end of 2016, early 2017. Yes.
Gotcha. What got you into it? Like, what was the impetus? I feel like usually people who start making YouTube channels are like angry at something. Like there's some very specific frustration they feel a need to get out and complain about. Was it like that for you or?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was from the university that I went to. I went to University of Toronto,
Mhm.
and late 2016, early 2017. I'm not sure if you're aware of Jordan Peterson.
I'm desperately aware of Jordan Peterson, I'm afraid.
Yeah, oof. He's an interesting one. And I, went to that school, and I witnessed a lot of the protests that happened. I witnessed a lot of the chaos that happened around there, and it was a bizarre moment for me. I'm gonna go get into this whole rant right now, but it
Mhm.
was a bizarre moment
Oh
for
wait,
me
hold on. Your
where
your connection is
I
you,
wasn't really as involved. No, oh,
oh Josephine.
am I good?
Oh, your connection dropped for a second. I think your bitrate might
Oh,
be struggling a little bit with the cam. If it drops again, would you mind dropping the cam so it's just voice?
no, that's
I
perfectly
know
fine.
chat will be angry, but just to keep the bitrate going strong. But anyway, it's
Of
fine
course.
now. So please continue.
Perfect. Yeah, I started in like late 2016, early 2017 during the whole Jordan Peterson controversy in Canada, and they were going through the free speech debate. They were having a debate on Bill C-16 that would have added gender identity and expression to the Human Rights Act, and it created this whole chaos at my university. And I went into it sort of trying to understand what was going on, trying to understand what both sides were yapping about. And after I left, it was really interesting to see that a lot of the, I don't want to say perpetrators, but a lot of the aggressors, I guess, came from the left. They came from the side that was not on the Peterson side.
Hmm.
And it was interesting to see that a lot of the lies that were formulated from the events that happened in school, and you know, seeing all of that and seeing students that we all used to get along and we all used to, love our school and love university, and all of a sudden everyone hates each other and everyone's arguing that, there's rampant racism, there's rampant this. And I wanted to use that as an opportunity to sort of talk to people and take a step back and say, hey guys, maybe this isn't necessarily what it looks like. Maybe there's a few things that we need to, discuss and get into. But oh boy, I feel like I should not have gotten myself involved in the first
Yeah,
place.
I'm actually really curious about that because I've never been a part of like an on the ground like political happening.
Yeah.
I do all my stuff online, and I think I prefer it that way. But can you so you say like after Jordan Peterson made himself sort of the center of attention, you say there was like this big uprising, like the student body like actively started like how was the environment at the school? I know this is tangential broadly to you, but I'm actually really curious. How did it turn into? Like how bad did it get? Do you have any specific examples?
Yeah. Well, I mean, shutting down. Do you mean how bad it went in terms of like violence, or more of like the activities that the students
Just
ended
like
up
how
participating?
much was it disrupted? Like the general student life. How weird did things get?
Oh, it was really, really weird. It was, I mean, it felt like there was just this tension that no one was talking about. I was also president of the debate club during that time, and I tried to host debates on like several controversial topics. So I'm here, why are we yelling at each other? Let's just have a debate about it. Let's have like a normal conversation about it. And that was shut down by my student unions. There are professors that went into class. They had to give a whole spiel and speech about Peterson. It was a weird time. There was like a clear divide happening for sure.
So were there
And
were students who were making an active effort to prevent people from having an open dialogue about JBP's ideas?
oh yeah, for 100%. And it was on both sides as well. Like the Jordan Peterson side, they were all instigating arguments. Like it's almost like they wanted their speech to be shut down so they can point it
Yeah.
and prove that, like, look, my speech has been shut down. Whereas those on the left, they want so bad to imaging that Peterson is they're willing to. I mean, they came up with stories, and these are events that I was at and I attended, and to see like the news report after and just realize that it's all bullshit. I'm like, does anyone even care about the cause here, or are we just yelling at each other? It was bizarre, Lord.
What was the cause for you?
More of like how can transgender students, how can non-binary students, how can students feel more comfortable in school? The bill, I'm not sure if you heard of Bill C-16.
Oh no, yeah, we've talked about it, and I am just to make my opinions forward. Like I had no
Mm,
problem with it whatsoever. I think Jordan Peterson dramatically misrepresented its contents in an
yep.
effort to exacerbate like a reactionary fervor at his university and then the world.
Yes, 100%. But I think an issue with that was that because it was so bad, a lot of the ideas and a lot of people that are trying to have genuine conversations about it got shut down because you don't want to go down that slippery slope of trying to question, transgender identity or non-binary identity. So it was this weird time where you can't talk about it because this guy is incredibly dangerous, but then saying you can't talk about it just makes people want to talk about it more. It creates like a martyr. It gets out of him.
Right, that's
Um,
the magic of like the what do they call it? The dark enlightenment or the intellectual dark web. That's it.
yes.
Right. Where these edgy intellectuals who have ideas they won't let you listen to, and the fact that they don't want you to listen to them is only evidence of their, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the IDW shit. It's such a and the frustrating thing is it's a really effective grift because you can say anything. And like the human biodiversity clearly suggests that whites cannot coexist with other ethnic minorities. And then when people invariably get mad, it's only made evidence to some presumed legitimacy of the original claim. It's so effective. It's really frustrating. I feel like
Yeah.
there's not really a counter to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a big part, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but a good chunk of a lot of the events that were shut down, a lot of the things that were shut down were done by the right wingers themselves. Like they hired people to come and protest. They hired people to come and shut it down so they can show that, like, come on, guys, look, this is what's going on. We're being shut down. Our speech. It's like, no,
Did they
it's
really do
really
that?
not. Yes, dude, it's bizarre. That's why I stopped for like a whole year, because I had to rethink everything. I had to rethink what I was getting myself into, and like understanding that a lot of these people that are online are lying to you. They're all hypocrites, or they're all incredibly sad and just projecting all their insecurities on camera. It was It's a bizarre world. It's a bizarre world.
Have you seen that meme where like the little baby is lying in the dirt with a boot pressing on its face, and then you zoom out and the baby is the one holding the boot with its hand, and it's just holding a
Yeah.
boot on its head, like that? Yeah, that's the vibe. I'm here. Let me try and find it. But yeah, and that's the it's so frustrating, I think, and I feel like we're moving away from this type of discourse right now. This like us being censored or silenced is only evidence that we're in the right, you know? But I don't think the left ever really developed a healthy response to that rhetorical tactic. I feel like we kept walking into the rake every time. You know what I mean?
No, sorry. Do you mind elaborating a little more?
Yeah, like because with some of these groups, it felt like they were trying to deliberately manufacture outrage to get attention, and we would give it to them handily. I'm in favor of deplatforming people like Milo Yiannopoulos. I don't have an issue with that. But I think that sometimes a lot of these, like, there were entire internet careers that were that exploded off of like exacerbating the controversy. The Kent State gun girl, Caitlin Bennett, for example.
Yep.
Yeah. She recently got put on Fox News because she went to a campus and a bunch of people yelled at her. Fox News.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know if there's like a good way to respond to that, to be perfectly honest.
Well, to ignore them, I think it worked a little bit. It worked a little bit for Richard Spencer, and I think a little bit for Milo Yiannopoulos as well. I actually did a documentary with the National Post on the state of free speech in Canada, and I tried to apply it broadly to the United States. And, you know, the big part of their whole rise to power was just the chaos of it all, the fact that they were getting shut down. If they're paying for protesters, if they're causing all of this, they come on the news. You can come on Fox News. You can do all of those things. But then the problem with that is as soon as people stop caring, then they stop caring as well. So I think Richard Spencer had an event where like 10 people showed up. He hasn't had one since Yiannopoulos hosted an event, and no one really showed up. They had like hundreds of cops waiting. No one wanted to protest it. Then he didn't want to show up anymore.
I saw that, dude. I saw that picture of him, like of Richard Spencer walking at the front of the auditorium, and there were like 11 like white dudes in like South Will Rise Again outfits. That was so fucking fun to watch. And he's like the guy too, you know? Milo Yiannopoulos is gone now. Richard Spencer is gone. In terms of public relevance, you know, of course.
Yes.
There are online figures that have been deplatformed a lot lately. JBP currently, I guess, like has his like brain collected into some sort of soup jar somewhere in Russia. You know, Godspeed to him. And then you've got like the Fuentes types and the Alsop types. I wonder, like, what's the next one gonna be? I'm wary, you know, like who's the next like dipshit to profit off of public outrage going to be?
I feel like there's already enough now. Candace Owens is one. She's like my arch nemesis. I get compared to her all the time, so I have to have
why?
This
That sucks.
I know it does suck. Oh Lord, she's garbage. It's so bad. It's so bad.
I hope it's not lefties making that compare. Like, oh, black woman. I know exactly what you're like. Like, Jesus.
It is lefties actually.
All right. Well, my
know.
apologies.
It's fine.
Uh,
No, and I'm a lefty too, so I understand like a lot of my show that, or I pandered a lot to like the right wing and conservative side of things. But yeah, I got a lot of hate from the left wing, which again made me confused because I realized that like the far right or right wing anti-SJW crowd, a lot of them are just bullshitting, and then the left side hates me because they think that I'm part of it. It's this weird, where I'm like, guys, I just want to know the truth, man. I'm just trying to get closer to the truth.
yeah, it's really frustrating because especially I feel like the right wing is much more permissive of ideological vagueness than the left wing. So you can be someone like Shoeonhead, for example, who has somehow alt-right fans, despite her being specifically pro Bernie Sanders, pro democracy, pro liberalism, and they like her because like sometimes she makes fun of Karens, you know?
Yes.
But if you're trying to be a leftist, any little deviation, they will hammer you on it. And I think it makes it really difficult to recruit or to like, build solidarity sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's really, really, especially with the online figures themselves. I think in order to put yourself out there, you have to have a little bit of an ego. So then,
Oh yeah.
there's just this whole, we need to attack this person, but it's like, no, we can probably do this together. And that's sort of why I stayed away from a lot of the drama. I used to be, gosh, this is so sad. I used to be a part of the, like skeptic community. I had to stay away from the drama because I just didn't understand picking on each other and picking cliques and doing all this. And I'm like, this world is chaos. It's chaotic. It's insane.
I know you knew Shu because Shu commented
Love
under one of your
her.
videos. It's still pinned underneath there. It's like a a memoriam to 2018. How bad? Who did you get to know in the skeptic community? Because some skeptics I think turned out fine, and some of them went fucking crazy. The more
Yeah.
time went on. Like, who did you engage with?
Well, Shuanhe, I think I love her. She's actually a good friend of mine. And people like Blair White, people like some black guy. We have Stargum of Akkad. Oh my gosh, even naming them sounds weird. I went to a couple events with all of them and saw them in their natural habitat. That was very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I engaged with that little crowd there. Chris Reagan. Yeah, those little people.
I think I'm going to be talking to him soon. Do you like Chris Reagan?
I do, although I haven't seen his recent stuff. But yeah, I mean, they all seem nice. But I guess
Gotcha.
it depends on what kind of a harm their videos are, causing to the world or creating. Then
Right. Well, yeah, because there's not always, a perfect straight line
yeah,
between, the harm you do and how personally pleasant you are.
yeah.
So what kind of videos did you make? I mean, I know, but I know that not everyone watching knows. Like, what were the topics that you were trying to hit, back then?
So things surrounding free speech was a big one. Black Lives, oh my gosh, Black Lives Matter was a huge one for
Mhm.
sure. And I guess I hate using the anti-sjw, but it sucks. That's the way to sort of explain that world, what
Yeah.
happened in 2016, 17. But those are the type of videos, like the reactionary videos is what I created. And then later on, I started to do more video essays. It was weird because I made this turn from creating like, oh, look at this person, that's crazy, cultural appropriation is bad or is nothing, all the silly videos, to wanting to create more, video essays and in-depth videos, and
Mhm.
then doing that and realizing that like no one really gave a shit, even though that's sort of what I wanted to do. I didn't
Yeah, I
like
don't. I feel like the skeptic community actively like discouraged high effort content.
Yes. Oh, yes. It was weird. It made me realize that like maybe this isn't the audience that I want, where they're not seeking any type of higher learning or higher knowledge. They're just here. They want to hear their own ideas regurgitated to them. Yeah, it's really, they do not promote it for sure at all. Um, but one thing that was a little bit discouraging was I went on Dave Rubin's show. That was actually, no, I don't regret it. It was fine. I went on Dave Rubin's show, and right after that, a ton of his conservative fans came to my channel, which then ruined everything. Because anything I did a video on like TPUSA, and I said, these are actually dangerous, and then all of them were like, nope, you're wrong, socialism, you're a social. And it's like, is there any solution to this? Can we actually like move forward as a society with all these different ideas, or you just have to pick a camp and stick to it? Too bad.
Is it true that Dave Rubin actually has a brace in his chair that he uses to simulate a spine, so he can sit up straight? But when he's actually like walking from place to place, he just kind of flops like cooked spaghetti.
Yes, that's very true.
Okay. I thought, all right. I've heard, just corroborating this information across multiple sources.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Dave Rubin.
I feel like there was such a great not grift, like an opportunity, because back then Dave Rubin would still engage with like the skeptic community, but now I feel like he's moved on to explicitly being like just a part of like the Republican establishment.
No, you mean classical liberal. Come on.
Oh yeah, sorry, classical liberal, like
Oh.
like Tucker Carlson, or maybe he could have Milo Yiannopoulos on again. I don't know, but it sucks though. I feel like there was this huge amount of ambiguity post 2016 that's kind of being cemented into two discrete camps, and it's getting harder to move people from one side to another.
Yes, for sure. And with the Dave Rubin thing, like I just think he's just a sellout. Like just yeah. Sorry, I'll go on rants on
It
Dave
was second
Rubin.
only to Candace Owens. Holy shit, she is good at that.
Like it triggers me, and I don't really get triggered. And I think I see it more as how much damage he's causing. And Steven Crowder too. Like these are people where I genuinely feel like they're causing so much harm to society. And I don't believe in deplatforming. I mean, but I do for them, just them, deplatform them because it's too far. We need to just end it there. But yeah, it's bizarre.
Wait, can I ask you something? This is something that I jump around in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to deplatforming, okay,
Mhm.
there are two approaches that I think sound decent, and one of them is mine, and the other one is something Destiny has pushed for. And I know mine is a little bit more ideologically loaded, but I was wondering if what you thought about his. Destiny
Okay.
is of the opinion that you should make an active effort to deplatform anybody who engages in relentless and deliberate misinformation. So it does. So if you're an honest like neo-Nazi, that's okay with him. But
Mhm.
practically speaking, that's not going to happen very often. But if you relentlessly push out like false propaganda or completely fake shit, like that's the threshold. Do you think that's a reasonable threshold? Because I feel like that would have caught a pretty big chunk of the reactionary skeptic community early
Yeah.
on.
Well, I mean, I yes, it is reasonable, but I'm only saying it's reasonable directly, and I'm only saying it's reasonable individuals that I think should be deplatformed.
Mhm.
But I think no. Oh lordy. But
I was
then,
just curious. I'm not trying to hold you to a standard or anything. I
oh
just
no,
think
I'm
it's so
actually
hard. It's so
interested.
hard to tell like who should be able to
Mhm.
talk. I do believe a lot in
Yeah.
free speech. It does worry me giving any agency, a government, or even just social groups or companies the ability to remove your sort of effectiveness rhetorically. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I feel like if I had to choose between drawing a soft and blurry line there or letting neo-Nazis take over the internet, like I know I would have to take the former. So it's just from there, it's just a matter of how to
Yeah.
best do that.
Yeah. And also, I think, I don't know, if there's at least enough content on the other side that can explain these ideas a little bit more, yeah, in depth, then that, yeah, if there's a counter to everything, if someone can really explain both ideas, then maybe they should both exist and allow the people to decide. But then the people are idiots. Sorry.
No, no, yeah, of course. Um, you are, I imagine, still. I mean, you said earlier, a very pro free speech person.
No. I
No.
mean, I don't think free speech is absolute. I am pro
Okay.
free speech, but I don't think Canadian free speech. Essentially, we have hate laws here, hate speech here. So
Hmm.
when I say I'm pro free speech, I'm kind of talking about the Canadian context. But yeah, I do not think free speech is absolute. I think there should be there are consequences for speech, and yeah.
Have you has your position on this moved, or is this something you've always held more or less?
It's moved for sure, and part of it actually did. A part of it came from working on the documentary that I did, where it just showed how much the free speech crisis that happened in 2016 and 2017 was just made up, and it was caused by a few outliers like Milo Yiannopoulos and Richard Spencer. And seeing that and realizing that there really isn't a crisis, so therefore these individuals that are coming in trying to say, I want to argue about transgender rights. I want to argue about this. I want to argue about this. It's free speech. It's like,
Hmm.
no, you guys are just here to talk shit and leave. This has nothing to do with it. So yeah, my views changed a little bit from being like, no, free speech is everything. We all, we should be able to say whatever we want to say to, okay, maybe there are individuals that are saying things not because they feel like they want to be, educate people. They're just saying it because they're trying to discriminate against other people. So yeah,
Okay.
there's,
No. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think because usually it's the worst thing. Usually now I feel like free speech is touted pretty much exclusively by the people who shouldn't have it. The people who use free speech like as a defense of the things that they say. There was an XKCD comic on this. Like the ultimate concession you can ever make to your argument is to defend it on the grounds that it is not technically illegal to say. And that's the position I feel like a lot of them retreat to. And I think you're totally right that this entire controversy about free speech was manufactured exclusively around the outrageous antics of a few people who were deliberately trying to get deplatformed, or at the very least, pushed back against to
yeah.
exacerbate this. Who was really getting censored? We have yeah, like Milo Yiannopoulos wasn't actually made irrelevant until he admitted to being a pedophile. That's a very high bar. I feel like a society in which public figures have to admit they're okay with children being raped before they get sort of let go of. I feel like
Yeah.
that means we're probably got a lot of room for free speech somewhere beneath that, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the fact that the individuals that start over 30%, I believe, of the 26. I should start over. I'm like ranting. I have a million different things that one.
No worries,
I
comrade.
think 2016 was cited as the most amount of deplatforming that happened, like the record high deplatforming, and that's when people started coming out and saying we need more free speech rights, and that's all of that started off of a study that showed that students do not sorry more and more students or more and more people are getting censored, only to find that 30% of the people that were censored was just, and another 20% was Richard Spencer, and another 10% was Ben Shapiro. So it's like when you take that away, we're in like all-time low of censorship. The last one was in 2013 with like 34 people was censored. In 2018, 9 people were censored, 9 people. So it's like if you just remove these individuals, then there is no crisis. No one talks about the many, many events that go on. No one talks about the many people that actually get to voice their opinions. But when they don't get it, when they get censored, it becomes big news, and everyone starts talking about it, and then you think this is a big thing that's happening when it's really not.
Yeah,
Oh,
the thing.
that's
Oh, yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just the thing that really bugs me is, like, historically speaking, the political group that's been most censored or most deplatformed in American history has probably been the communists for the most part. During the Red Scare, the Cold War, the era of McCarthyism, I mean, like feds would literally like raid houses. They would go, I mean, to Hollywood. They would blacklist people if they were assumed to have even associated with others. This has never happened to people on the right. Not even close.
Yeah.
There are still towns down the south where the Ku Klux, the KKK is like, they'll shake hands with the police chief, The sheriff, they'll go on over there like they're buds. The idea that we have some kind of institutional system for discriminating against conservatism is well, it's absurd.
Yeah. It's
And
a
they
way
think,
to gain more supporters for sure.
yeah, the threshold is like, who gets deplatformed on the right? Like, in order to be a neo-Nazi and to be deplatformed, you have to go on YouTube and be stupid enough to just flat out violate every TOS provision and say this group should be killed, this group should be blah blah blah. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, back in the 50s, like, all you had to do was advocate for the rights of the poor, and the fucking
Yeah.
feds would show up at your door. Yeah, okay. So it just bothers me. It's the same as like when white people are treating like the COVID-19 quarantine as like their own personal civil rights movement. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, the hapless cry of the desperately unoppressed people,
Yeah.
wishing that they were victims of something. I don't know. It's pretty dumb.
True. That really sums it all up. That sums up the entire like college free speech experience thing. Is there are people leaving high school going into college? They need some sort of identity. They need some sort of like, I'm leaving childhood into adulthood. I don't want to be a whiny, snowflake. So I'm going to go with this team, and then they use that to their advantage and say, you don't want to be them. You want to be the strong ones. You want to be the ones that can take it on. And it's a lack of, they need anything to fight for, so then that's what they fight for. They want to feel like victims of something. I don't know.
Yeah, victim complex Andes. Yeah, of course. Like, that's kind of the rallying cry for all like solidarity movements, right? Everything from workers' rights to like black liberation to like everything. It all comes down to feeling ultimately that you're the victim of some kind of systemic oppression. It just sometimes that is a very illegitimate claim. You said that you said that right now you're doing reporting work, correct?
Yes, with National Post, but with COVID right now, and unfortunately cannot work.
Right. Have you done any work in the past? I know over email you mentioned a free speech documentary or free speech work that you had done. If I'm misremembering, maybe.
Yeah, the documentary I actually did for them is really, really. I was so proud of myself. It's the first thing I did on my own, so that was really cool.
Nice. Could you? Well, yeah. What was the premise basically?
Essentially the free speech movement is bullshit, and I just wanted to. There's some new policies being put in place by the Ontario government, and the current leader, his name is Doug Ford, and he's essentially Trump light. And he put in some free speech policies, and the U.S. also put in some free speech policies. So I wanted to see if there is actually a crisis and what can be done, and if these proposed solutions would actually help, rectify the situation. But then that's when I actually found out that, a big chunk of the crisis came from only like 3 individuals, and no one really talked about the events that were never shut down. The fact that a lot of the you know, the chaos that happened was all, you can paid actors. It's people that are coming in there just to protest for the sake of protesting. And a lot of the policies that are being put in place just do more harm to censor students than they actually do to, you know, make students feel that they can express their views. So it's just interesting to see that, you know, a lot of the things that you believe to be true, a lot of the things that you see on the news, it's just not, yeah, it's not what it seems. It's not necessarily what's actually happening. And the free speech movement is definitely one of those. It's just, it was perpetuated by a few individuals, and now there's policy being created in order to rectify it. It's like, no, we should just let things go the way they are. They were going
Yeah, it is
smoothly.
reverberated across the entire discourse. Oh, sorry. Would you mind pulling your hair away from the mic? It's scratched a little
Yes.
bit against the. Hi. Yeah, I think, and one of the things that I think very rarely gets considered, and this is one of the things that bugs me too, as somebody who cares, you know, a lot about democracy and freedom, what have you, is that there is fundamentally a chilling effect on the free speech of marginalized groups when we allow non-marginalized groups to engage in some types of sort of oppressive or you know, or they reify oppressive systems with their speech. So like trans people, for example, you know, trans people, like on the books here in America, probably over there in Canada too, not really discriminated against concerning freedom of speech. On the books, law-wise, they're probably fine. But realistically, their ability to meaningfully express themselves is really hampered by the way people treat them. So to reinforce their poor treatment is to implicitly put them in a position where they can't really express themselves, whether that be in-person stuff, because many trans people are, I think for fairly good reason, fairly anxious people out in public, especially when they're young, you know, that probably precludes them from participating in like club activities on campus or actively standing up against the behaviors of certain professors or standing up to people who bully them in person. And online, if their comment sections are packed full of people being, you know, horrible to them, it's really gonna disincentivize them from going out there and trying to express themselves. So yeah, it's the chilling effect thing. It's something they never ever take into consideration, ever. Like, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, that, like, yeah, the voices of the, sorry, I'm not sure. I think I understood what you said, but I don't want to repeat it and say something different. But a lot of the voices of like minority groups, they are silenced because they don't feel confident enough, or they don't feel that there is a space for them to speak, essentially.
Yeah, like back in the South, like when after slavery, when black folk could vote proper, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes the Klan and the white citizens counselors would show up at voting places and just hold like Confederate flags
Oh
or
gosh.
like hang hoods from signposts and stuff. And I
Yeah.
mean that's technically legal, you know. I mean
Yeah.
that's, you know, it's not against the law, but obviously it's being done for a pretty specific purpose. And while I don't necessarily think stuff like that should be illegal unless like you can meet a certain threshold for proving it's like legal harassment or discrimination, I think stuff like that is a much more legitimate threat to free speech than any like whiny college kids could ever possibly be. Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
they censored JBP and then he ended up being one of the most influential academics of the beginning of the 21st century. Like, okay, dude.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Wow, so censored. God, no one has heard his voice at all since that day of censorship. It's bizarre for
And
sure.
now we might never again. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, full circle. Yeah, I mean, there are events that were hosted at my school. There was one on, do you know Megan Murphy? Oh, did I lose you?
Very briefly, but you're back
Oh,
now.
sorry. Do you know Megan Murphy by any chance?
That name sounds familiar. Hold on. But I don't remember offhand, no.
Oh no, please don't
Canadian.
Google it. I'm kidding.
We're Googling. Oh, wait, I'm looking at her face now. Is she a TERF?
Yes.
You can. Oh, it's the bone structure. Whew. Race realism isn't real, but god damn it, if fucking turf realism isn't. Holy shit, there's that
That's
Karen
awesome.
look. Oh
Yes.
yeah, I know this motherfucker.
Exactly.
Followed
Oh
by
my gosh.
Brianna. Wow,
Sorry.
interesting. Yeah, no, please, sorry.
No, she is one of the those people where she comes on campuses and talks about these ideas and talks about, you know, how she feels about transgender rights and she tries to pose herself as this women's rights type person. I'm fighting for women, but really she's just trying to find ways and excuses to discriminate against trans people. So although her ideas and the things that she would say specifically is not necessarily quote unquote wrong, it's not necessarily illegal, but yeah, the act of her discussing these things is just going to discourage transgender people and people that are around from speaking up, from feeling comfortable in their environment, because there's literally someone that's questioning their identity, but then putting this is scientific on top of it to make it sound like it's legitimate. It's bullshit. It's all
Yeah, well,
fucking
yeah,
bullshit.
and everyone knows this if we did it under any other context. If I went to fucking San Jose or San Diego as a guest speaker, and I went up there and I read out like 87 stats on how Hispanic people are more likely to commit crime or some shit, which, I mean, if you dig hard enough through stats, you can find anything or prove any point. And you just go up there and you're like, I just want to have a realistic talk on the ability for people from different cultures to commingle. And then you read all that out and you're like, I'm not taking any questions. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Like you know what you're doing there, and she
Yeah.
knows what she's doing. I think
Yeah.
there's something very special though about TERFs that, or I guess transphobes in general, but I think it's mostly TERFs, that I feel like they, of all the bigot groups, are most motivated by pure blind hatred. I feel like a lot of the people who preach like race realism online have this broader, like, I just want a white ethno state so I can have a barefoot trad wife, girlfriend to pump full of kids. There's like some
Yeah.
ulterior thing, but considering the existence of trans people like hurt literally no one, and there aren't even any good arguments for fantasy universes in which they do, I feel like it's just hatred and disgust. It's very distilled vitriol. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, either that or projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I completely agree. There is a lot of hatred there. And it's so sad to see because I don't know, I hate the fact that the idea, this might sound stupid or silly, but the idea of
No, please.
empathy only really, I can only see a lot of that with the left. And it's on the right, it's just a matter of doing it on your own and pull yourself up. And this is just how things are. It's like, why don't you try to understand something from like someone else's point of view? Then maybe you might try to understand why they make the decisions they do. Maybe you can understand why this, but no, it's just a matter of this is how I like it, this is how it is, and that's how it's going to be. And I don't know, that's what the idea of conservatism, just to conserve. What are we conserving here? I don't understand. It's all hatred and it's bad.
Well,
Not all, sorry.
that's the big meme for me, because when I was a kid, I thought like when, I guess not a kid, like 16 or 17, I thought like, oh yeah, conservatism is dumb. My brand of enlightened centrism is smart. And then I got a little bit older, I went to college, and I thought like, okay, well, no political system is like dumb, you know. In reality, actually, there's a huge confluence of different environmental, factors that lead to. And then I grow up a little more, and I'm like, no, conservatism is actually really dumb. Like, it's completely indefensible. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's like the Civil War was about slavery. Oh no, it was about states' rights. Oh no, actually, it really was about slavery. Kind of like whiplash. Like, you get on the other end, you realize like conservatism really does contribute absolutely nothing of value to the world. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Which I guess is one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be able to do the stuff that I do, because I'm paid to complain about it. You know?
No, and that's one thing that I really loved about your content and stuff. And I love that you, not that you speak to everyone, but you speak to them in such a quote unquote kind and inviting way. And I think you're trying to understand them better, and you're trying to have them understand your ideas, and you're trying to create, I guess, a community of people where we have mutual understandings of how things should be, what is right, what is wrong, and all of those things. But yeah, with the conservatism itself, where I don't know how I can talk to these people, man. I'm really trying, but I do a lot of this behind the scenes too. Like, I love meeting up with people and going to these different events and having genuine conversations with people. And I just keep realizing that you have no ideas. Your only idea is that you want to keep what you have, and you want to keep your guns. You want to make sure there's no crime, so we need to get rid of immigrants. You want to be able to say whatever you want to say. Oh, and the free market. I'm like, how is this even, how can we progress as a society with all these ideas? You can't, you really can't. But you're doing you do a great job.
Oh yeah, we're all trying our best. I feel the way I try to think of it is, I feel like most conservatives have an abusive relationship with their ideology. There are some conservatives, and these are usually high up people, like big name, like Fox News pundits, politicians, like Ben Shapiro or whatever. Or I can't really ascribe this level of faith or charitability to them, because I know they're in tremendous like degree of power themselves. But for most people who are conservative, I have a feeling that they have this fundamentally like they have this concession they've made to the world. Like, this is as good as it can get. This is the best we can do. We can't hope for more than this. We can't move beyond this. And the most we can do is grasp on to some like imagined good we had at a given point. But I think for a lot of people, this is a fundamentally like a not just toxic, but almost like a an internally destructive coping system, because it usually is a way of them trying to moralistically justify stuff that's happened to them that they don't want to believe anything else could have done about. Most conservatives are poor or have been in some way, shape, or form a victim of a capitalist economy. Most conservatives have been like female conservatives, like that's a given right there. Just fucking put them to the side. That's easy. But even more so with male conservatives, the toxic masculinity thing. Like I have to act like this. I need to act like this. It's a blood right thing, or it's biological, or whatever justification I can find to, you know, make this something I feel I need to do. And breaking them away from those preconceptions, I think, is a very liberating experience for them. In a way that I can't really understand because I haven't had that experience, but I've talked to people who have, and they seem to feel that way pretty ubiquitously. So I hope that's the attitude I try to bring. Like, I may like try to like be mean to you or destroy your arguments or anything, but fundamentally I'm trying to get you out of there, you know? Oh, hey, Hunter Avalon. Are you familiar with Hunter Avalon?
Yes, I am familiar with Hunter. I've met him, actually.
Ah, well, he's in chat. Hey, Josephine, very interesting talk. Definitely seems like we've gone on a similar journey. Sorry we got off on the wrong foot at first.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't remember anything you're talking. Kidding. No, it was fine. He's a great kid, of course. I don't know if he wanted me to bring it up or not.
Hey, listen, he and I didn't get off on the best start.
He was mean. He was a mean person, and I couldn't have a mean person in my area. So I'm so sorry.
I can personally attest to his decency and kindness now. Thanks, Hunter, for showing. Anyway, I didn't mean to ramble there or anything like that. People are always victims of their circumstances. Everyone's a victim of their circumstance. So even the worst people. So we have to treat them that way, you know?
Yes. And I feel like a big part of the, I don't know if I'm sort of derailing here, but I started thinking a big part of it is the inequality aspect of it, where like you said, a lot of the people that hold these ideas have been hurt, or they've had something happen to them in the past where they feel like, you know, this is how things should be just because I've gone through it. I worked my ass off to get somewhere. Therefore, everyone has to work their ass off. And, you know, if this person is having it easier, then they can't have it easier. So the real problem, I feel like, is inequality. And as inequality just increases or gets larger, bigger, as inequality grows, then more and more people will start looking for these ideas to latch onto. And it's unfortunate that, you know, the alt-right or the right-wing or Trumpsian, the Trump group is what they latched onto. So it sucks. It's like everyone's hurt, but they're all trying to find ways to feel better about themselves.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Yeah. Especially like your relationship to your workplace, dude. How the fuck? This is still crazy to me. I know you're Canadian, right? You weren't like American, then you moved north.
No.
Okay, just make sure. But like the American spirit of individualism is so ingrained into our culture. We despise being told what to do. We hate it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, you know. And normally I think that's a great thing, you know. Whatever, right on, cowboy. But somehow, and I don't know how, the people who believe in that spirit of individualism the most went on to believe that the way to be a man is to cuck yourself to a capitalist like boss. Like these are people who are like, I'd rather die working at 7-Eleven than let this economy be ruined by COVID anymore. Let freedom ring. And what they're talking about is going back to fucking Ace Hardware so they can stand by the hammer aisle and make small talk with like 35-year-old, you know, like new dads. Like it's insane to me. Do you know a guy called Mike Rowe?
I don't think so, no.
He's the guy who did the Dirty Jobs show. I don't know. I guess I don't really know how television works. I don't know if that's the thing that you'd see in other countries. But he did this show, and the basic premise of the show was like he would do all these dirty jobs, like to show you appreciation for them. I'm gonna get there in the sewer. I'm gonna cut goat testicles off or whatever. I don't know. And it was a fun show, but he's a hardcore conservative, and he came up with this called like the Micro Sweat Pledge, which is like an acronym for something. And what it was is like if you take the sweat pledge, it's like the workers' equivalent of like a chastity pledge. Like, I will never complain about any job I'm given, no matter what it is. I will show up early and leave late. I will tongue my boss's perennialum every morning until he tells me to stop. Like, really weird shit. But this is supposed to be the spirit of individualism. I have no idea how they reconcile the cognitive dissonance. It would kill me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I really went off track with there. But like, there's so many ways. Like, I just want to help conservatives. I just want to help. They're so cucked.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I mean, it's based on the idea that the whatever is already existing at this moment is how it should be. And it's like, but that doesn't make any sense if you're trying to, the idea of like, you can't break the law, that's what it is. And I have to respond with, Jim Crow was a law. What do you mean? Or like, slavery was a thing and that is no longer a thing. Do you agree with that? Should we have changed that law?
Yeah,
like,
live free or die hard. Yes, sir, Mr. Police Officer. Anything you say, sir. Like, I don't get it.
With the U.S., it really, that's the one thing that I guess I'm trying to understand better is how the hell you guys are going to come up with solutions when from California to like Texas is so different. They're such different people. They have such different ideas. They have such different cultures and upbringings that it's almost not necessarily impossible, but actually I would like to know what your thoughts are on this, because I went on a road trip down south and then going to like California, going to freaking New York, like the differences in culture, the way that I was looked at when I was in the South, the way I was looked at when I was in New York, the way I was looked at in this other place. I could live in one area and swear to God that racism is not a prominent thing. And I can live in another area and swear to God that every single day I face it. And then at the end of the day, the policies that are being created has to be created at like the federal level. So it's like, so then how do you deal with that? How do you deal with all the different like cultures and ideas with these different segments of population?
I totally fucking agree with you, because I grew up in Los Angeles, a place that has, at least in the area that I was in, basically no interpersonal racism. Everyone in the area I grew up in, unless like they were all being like really good actors or something, these were all very progressive people. Huge multicultural community, of course. Now, the city of LA is a fucking hellhole for black people. I recognize that. But the specific area I grew up in was, they did the little, like, it's a small world after all shtick pretty good. And then I'd visit Florida every summer to see my grandfolks, and then, we get that. I don't know. I mean, what it feels like is, it feels like from a policy perspective, we're winning for the most part. Because over the past 20 years, there has been a massive amount of progressive, everything from gay marriage to the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to the federal investigations on police brutality that was done in Baltimore and in that other goddamn city. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But it seems like on a federal level, there's been a pretty good amount of work done. Trump has done some backscaling, but even with Trump, like, what has he gotten done? Oh, Ferguson, thank you. Even with Trump, what has he gotten done? Trans people out of the military, and also, like, you can discriminate against trans people. Not to disrespect trans folk or nothing, but, like, that's it? We got our most viciously fascist populist president in the history of the country, with support of both the Senate and the House, and that's the damage he's able to do. So it feels like I mean, man, like, I feel like we're doing pretty good, if that's the worst backscaling we're going to get. From that point forward, I think, and this is what I hear all the time, we need to work on local, we need to work way harder on like local measures. State governments have a fuck ton of autonomous control within their own borders. I think that if we made an effort to try to start platforming like harder left policies in more like purple states, in places like Florida or Iowa, we might be able to make like a really significant long-term change. I don't know if the presidency is the best way to do that. Federal policies these days feels like half of them are done by executive order, and the next president's just going to throw them off,
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't even get me started on the whole healthcare thing for you
Yeah. Oh,
guys.
wait. Oh, sorry. One second. My chat's making fun of me. Shut the fuck up, guys. Okay. Holy shit. You guys know goddamn well that if Trump was even halfway competent, he could have repealed back the fucking Civil Rights Act. Okay. But he didn't. And you know why? Because we're winning. All right. Listen, he takes small concessions from what is currently the most oppressed group or outwardly oppressed group in the country, which is probably trans people. Everyone loves to hate trans people, but that's all he can do. And that's good news. It's much easier to discriminate against trans people than to discriminate against gay people or discriminate against black people or discriminate against Hispanic people. So I feel like it's evidence that, they have to peel out the outermost layers and they're not even good at doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The chat's being mean. All right.
No,
Good luck,
no, it's
guys.
fine. But I have a question. Is it fair to view it as doing better because of there's no new policies are being put in place, or no, he's not repealing any of the previous policies, versus how the social climate is doing in these individual areas? Like, I feel like there's more damage done in that regard than actual policies. So then should we look at it as we're doing better versus, or should we look at it as like, actually it's getting worse, but at least there isn't any policies that are being repealed? Sorry,
No. You're right. I think we're doing better. I think the world is getting worse, but I think we're doing better. America has a really strong civil society, which we benefit from. As fucking horrible as this country is, and it is in so many ways, we do have a really strong, like, internal democratic society that I respect quite a bit. That wasn't present in like other countries that I would otherwise have reason to respect more, like the Soviet Union or like Mao's China. There is something special about a very strong like internal culture of dissent, disagreement, and democracy. And I think that's what's helping us right now. That in another country, like for example, Brazil, when they get their Trump elected with Bolsonaro, he's able to do infinitely more damage because they don't have the same internal mechanisms capable of withstanding that damage. We are able to hold out. And I feel like we are on the precipice of a paradigm shift where if we handle things right, the Republican Party is never going to be relevant again. And if that's the case, if we can manage to pull that off, God willing, I think these smaller, more local communities where they're kind of backwater, they're holding on to these older values, they're still very patriarchal, they're still very racist. I feel like they're going to be so excluded from the dominant culture and the dominant economy. Their cities, their towns are going to fall way to the same way the Rust Belt did. They're not going to have the money, the tourism, the industry to stand afoot. And at that point, they will have to join us or they will die. And I think that's probably best case scenario. I don't
Yeah.
feel any contempt for small town folks, and I really do feel bad for what's going on, in those places. But if it is important to remember that it is not just an economic, but also a cultural difference between the cities and the rural communities. And that cultural difference is one that I do not want ameliorated. I want it consumed. I do not
Yeah.
want the culture of small towns in the culture of big cities.
Yeah. No, I for sure completely agree. It's really, yeah, it's really interesting to just see how different they are, and like what could actually be done to get people to be at least be on the same side of, and that's the one thing, helping people, the idea of wanting to give healthcare. Actually, that's a interesting one-ish.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on, I guess, universal versus Medicare for all versus all that fun stuff? And do you think that's something that could actually be implemented in the US?
Um, I don't think Medicare for All ever really had a shot at making it. It's something that I
True.
would like long term, and I think that Bernie put a good case for it. Even if it went through the Senate and through Congress, I don't think there's any way like we would ever be able to get the budget for it.
Yeah.
Because that's the big. So Medicare for All is cheaper than the system we have now. But
Mhm.
that's only if you take a look at the total cost. The difference is that with our current system, that cost is split up amongst all the citizens, the population. You
Yeah.
know, but with Medicare for All, that cost is fronted entirely by the government. On its
Yeah.
own, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, sure, that's just redistribution, tax a little harder. But I don't think we'd ever be able to get that passed, at least not in this election cycle. I think that a
Yeah.
public option is fine, if we have a public health insurance that competes with private health insurance companies. But long term, the reason why I really want Medicare for All is because universalism makes it more difficult to attack public institutions. So, like with schools, for example, right now in the United States, public schools are crap. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons for this is because private schools are where all the rich kids go. So the rich families don't give a shit about the public schools because because why would they? Their kids don't go there. And
Yeah.
in some places, they've even fought to have like funding put towards the private schools rather than the public schools. And you have the charter school problem. And then eventually what you realize is because the rich don't have to buy into the main system, they have no reason to, well, pay into it. And it makes it worse for everyone. That's how I feel about Medicare for All. I would want everyone on the government's dime because that would make it harder for wealthy people to attack it because they'd be attacking their own system too.
Very true. Damn, very well said. Thank you. Sorry, I was genuinely interested in what your opinion on it is because I don't know. Medicare for all. I just felt that it was something that it would take a while to be implemented, and I felt like it was a little bit unreasonable because of, I guess, the way the general public feels about it, and that's something that I've been sort of trying to investigate a little, what the disconnect is with the American public, where, do they actually want a public option? Are they actually afraid of having their private healthcare change? Is it ignorance? I think Obama came out like recently and said, Americans don't want a revolution. They just want change. And then looking into, okay, do Americans actually want, like, I don't know. It's really the disconnect between what people are saying they want.
It's impossible to tell because Americans are too stupid to even know what the fuck they're voting for. Like with Obama, like how many of you support Obamacare? Like 36%. How many of you support the Affordable Care Act? Like 62%. Like we have no idea. We can't tell. When people say they like Medicare for all, what does that mean to them? Like what?
Nothing.
They don't. Yeah, a lot of people. I don't think they realize Bernie's Medicare for all plan. Or sorry, Medicare for all plan would have destroyed all private insurance. You could not have private insurance. Now, I think that's based. But if the population was made aware of that, would they think it's based? Do they? The real issue is that our education system is so poor, and our media, like propaganda outlets, are so effective that it's impossible for like the average citizen to be expected to understand the systems they're voting for or against. So we don't actually know what people want. We only know what terms people associate with what they've been told they want.
Yes.
Which is
exactly.
Which is really, really frustrating because it makes it impossible to know what the public will is.
And it makes me kind of question the idea of democracy in the first place, because I'm like, if you think that voting for healthcare means that socialism all around and, we're all going to turn into their usual argument of Venezuela, then I don't think you should be voting, or I think you should probably inform yourself a little bit more before voting.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, I would rather... While the average population is dumb as fuck, I think I would rather leave things in their hands than try to like curtail or select like which group should be able to vote. I knew you were saying that facetiously. I'm not accusing you of being anti-democratic, but yeah, so because some people I think really do like lose faith in democracy. I think it's just an education problem, Like for an example, like I don't consider myself to be like a particularly exceptional person. I do follow politics for a living, so obviously I'm biased in that respect. But I've talked with other people who I think have about like my general, level of social awareness, and they seem to be pretty up on a lot of issues, or more importantly, a brief conversation will really, really clarify their position, and they can then, act on that. I think, I don't know, maybe if we had a system like, where we have like public representatives who are meant to, from both sides, that are meant to describe the pros and cons of a policy. And we facilitate everything sort of like not through a referendum, but like, hey, before you vote on this and this are what you need to know. They have that on the local ballots in California, but it wasn't for every issue. It was for the local provisions. You would vote for like, does like C-47, like what does this do, pro and con, and then the pro would be written by the pro side, the con written by the con side. But we don't do that for representative officials, even though we vote in those officials based on their policies, which seems like an issue to me. What if we had, like, when we're out there voting, like we have like, here's Donald Trump, here are basic policy positions, pro con, here's the Biden, here's the pro and con. It'd be a little bit clunky, but I feel like it'd be a step in the right direction. I don't really know.
Yeah. Maybe they have to do a test after, just so I know they're not just glancing through it and being like, okay. No, they need to like understand this is what this policy means. And I feel like if a lot more people, were more educated and understood a lot of the policies that are going through, then maybe they'll disagree with it. Like you said, the Medicare versus, do you want Medicare? Yes. Do you want Medicare with private insurance? No. Do you like?
Exactly. Do you want Obamacare? Fuck no. Do you want the Affordable Care Act? Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Like, okay. All right. Exactly. Real quick. Let's go right back to the classroom. You'll get to vote in 5 minutes.
And there's something I found out was that the different news organizations over the years, there's a source National Health something. I could send it to you in a bit. But it showed all the different polls that were taking on healthcare and all the different questions that were asked and how it changed over the years and how their responses were. So it's just interesting to see that Fox News would say, "So do you like, Affordable Care Act?" And they say yes. And then next year they're going to change it to Obamacare. So then they can say, 60% of Americans say they disagree with this. And like, so what is true?
Support is plummeting. Yeah,
it's plummeting, but it's just the wording that's different. And I'm like, so what is even true? If the way you word it determines the way the public responds to it, then do the public even know what they're voting for? Sorry, just
No, I don't fucking know. I have no, like, how many times, like, chat, raise your hands, like, how many times have you seen Trump supporters go like, "Oh shit, I lost my insurance"? Like, what did you? Yeah, what were you voting on? Like, yeah, like there have been so many people who complained about that. Nobody seems to really know. It's
No.
And again, they're victims of abuse. I think it's really sad. They've been brought up with a very specific, it's a very emotionally loaded mindset, and they use it to internally justify the bad things that happen to them. Because for every person who says, "I'm not a Trump supporter anymore," he lied or whatever, there are 9 people who are going to sit there looking at their medical bills piling up, knowing they voted for Trump, knowing that increased like premiums or whatever. They're going to look at that and go like, "Okay, well, I guess I should have worked harder." And then they're going to go beat their wife or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like, but it's deeply sad.
Yeah, it is. Especially because they're being taken advantage of, and that's the target. Like TPUSA, for example, and it's almost like, when you get those emails, spam emails that sort of seem legit, but then they change the font and have a few things wrong, so then they can weed out all the idiots. Have you ever heard of stuff like that?
Yes.
So
No. I don't think so. Could you explain to me?
Yeah, so if you got an email that's like, "Hey, Vosh, I wanted you to join our team. We are very, very excited. Just click on this link and this is how you can get started, blah, blah, blah." Whereas another person, in order to weed out the idiots, this is a scam email. In order to weed out the idiots, they have like misspellings, they have like different fonts. So then they make sure that you get like the grannies or like the people that are a little bit illiterate.
Right, the most tech incompetent people,
Yeah, to click the link. So it's almost like that's just what the conservative, I hate saying conservative movement because that's so broad, but that's what the conservative movement is.
Yeah. I mean, I actually read one time. I think it was just a Medium article. It wasn't like academic or anything, but it was what they were arguing, why is family abuse more common in conservative households? And they argued it wasn't actually because of reactionary tendencies, like "fuck you, my kid's my property," or like "my wife, whatever, shut up," like none of that. But it was instead because it's an outlet for all of the internal discord they feel when they have to justify the bad things that happen to them without blaming a system. So they'll look at like piling up premiums or something, or they're like lose their job, and rather than thinking like trying to like assign like a broader sociological reasoning for it, instead they'll get really angry at the people around them, or they'll get mad at their wife because the wife got like pregnant too early, so that means they weren't able to get like a different house in a different city, or they'll find an interpersonal excuse. And I thought it was really compelling, and again, really, really sad. It's kind of a stereotype here in the States that, like, I don't know if it is up there, like hick people, like rednecks or whatever, are perpetually abusing one another. Like they live in shitty rundown houses and they're always screaming at each other, or like passively aggressively fighting with one another. I don't know how true that stereotype is, but even in like the media representation, it feels like it usually stems from something related to their economic, subjugation.
Yeah. They're the ones that click the link. They're the ones that are... Sorry, I think I explained... I'm not sure if I explained what I was saying properly, but I guess...
How the scam emails tend to preclude people who don't have the common sense to weed out like the issue with what they're going for. I fell for a scam email once. It was the dumbest... It wasn't one of those though. It was actually a real professional type one. It was we received like trouble with your bank account. Can you call Wells Fargo? And then it had the 4 and like my last 4 credit card number digits, and they got that because they pulled it from a recent leak that was from some company that I had bought something recently. So I was like, oh okay, and I called it, and they were like, can you reset your thing? Give Pri your password. I realized halfway through saying the password, and then I hung up and changed all my passwords. So I very narrowly avoided losing my savings account, but congratulations.
You wouldn't have fallen for the MAGA Trump people. You are the smart one.
Yeah, exactly. The 200 IQ spam call
Yes.
swerve, narrowly avoiding. Yeah. Remember, folks, they never ever ask for your password.
Yep. I got an email once. I'm Nigerian, and I was actually born in Nigeria, and I came to Canada when I was 9 years old. And I got an email from someone saying, "Hey, this is your uncle from Nigeria. Like, I need help." And I legitimately thought it was real. And I'm here like, "Oh my God, uncle! Like, we need to help him." And my parents explained, like, "Let me just explain what scamming is, and like, don't ever do that again." But yeah, dude,
James, I've missed you so. Here's like vacation photos. I hope you've been doing well over there. How's the weather?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
How's the weather? It's bad because I mean I don't know. My parents have lots of siblings and family back in Nigeria, so any email I get where it's like I'm your Nigerian uncle, I'm like I believe it until they prove me wrong.
Yeah, now from now on, all like Nigerian, like they all have to encrypt. You know, like, hey, what's the Hey, what's something only you would know about me? You have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
God. Yeah. Conservatism sucks, I guess. It does really bug me, and this is probably something you take issue with too, so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on it. I don't like it when people essentialize the problems with conservatism. Why is conservatism bad? Well, men are stupid. Whites are dumb. Conservative, there's just dumb people, you know? I feel like by essentializing it, you're kind of perpetuating the issue, you know?
Yes, it's just giving them fuel for sure. And that was a big part of if you're going to create a us versus them thing, if you're going to create they're bad simply because they just are this person or this group, then they can do it to you too. Because they'll be like, well, if you hate us, then we hate you because you're a minority, because you're this, because you're that. And if you're liberal, therefore you're this. But I think you really have to break it down and say, no, these are the reasons why I believe conservatism is not the way that we should, or, the political idea that we should hold at this time. This is the reason why, not just, because of white men. And that played a part with so many like people that were in the center or a little bit unsure, that played a part for them going into the right wing aisle or
makes
whatever.
It look real bad when people are like unironically fuck white men. Like, because to you and me, like, it's pretty obvious. Like, this is usually just some infantile expression of frustration. This fuck white men thing, this has never made its way to government. This has never made its way to policy. White men aren't fucking targeted or harassed or discriminated against. But to I wanted to say to an idiot, to an uneducated person, like that is like, it's like, oh, holy shit, I've never in my entire life heard somebody say fuck black people. I've never heard that. I'm 22 years old. I'm in college. I've never heard anyone say that seriously. That would be horribly racist. But people can say that about white people? What the fuck? It would take just a little bit of education to move them away from that false dichotomy, but not everyone has it, and they then think there's this horrible hypocrisy where you can do or say whatever you want about white people, and
that's why it's so easy, because I feel like a lot of the arguments that are made on the right are so simple. It's like this usual this talking point I used to use, and it's so sad, but the 50% of all violent crime is done by 13% of the population, or women are paid this much, and then there's a lot of arguments where when you just hear it on the surface, it makes sense. And now I've learned if something makes sense, you probably should look a little bit deeper, because it probably is wrong. Like, if it sounds like that makes sense, it probably doesn't. I mean, from like a conservative side,
the general response that I've learned, this is what I would always encourage people. It's that know the difference between a normative and a descriptive claim. Very, very important. The 1350 thing, first of all, I want to say the 1350 thing is wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 1336. The 50 was from a very outdated set of statistics that were very selectively interpreted. 1336, that's like a 30% decrease. Like, again. But anyway, 1350 is catchier, so that'll...
I know, exactly.
Yeah, so it'll stick. But, 1312. But, what the fuck was I saying? I'm sorry. Oh, right. The difference between a descriptive and a normative claim. If you say 1350, blacks commit 50% of the violent crime despite being only 13% of the population. Okay, so if we pretend that's true, that's a descriptive claim. It describes the world. But that does not intrinsically mean anything prescriptively. So the question I would ask of people is, what I would request is, if you see that, and you see a statistic that seems really weird or like it leads down a certain road, ask yourself why. Don't just buy into the normative premise that's being associated with it. If you hear 1350, there are many ways to interpret that data, one of which is the inferiority of black people. That's what they want you to think. That's the implication. They assume you'll go that way. But if you think just a little bit harder, like, why might that be? Well, a lot of black people are poor. Poor people commit more crime. That might be a thing. Or black people are disproportionately arrested by a pretty significant amount. So maybe that skews the numbers. It just takes all you have to do is just be a little prescient. Yeah. Just think, like, what does this actually mean? What could this mean other than what I assume it means?
Yes. A big part of it is what they're not saying versus it's the problem of what they're not saying versus what they are saying. So they can give you all these facts that may be true, but then you have to dig a little deeper for you to actually understand why that makes it true. And the education system, I think, would be another part of it, where it's like less educated people tend to, go into crime more. It's like, okay, so why would someone have less education? Because they probably live in an area that has bad education. Why would it have bad education? Because of how the education system works, and it discourages.
And why is the education system shit? Because they're all paid with the property tax of the neighborhood. And why is that bad? Because all these houses are fucking run down fucking Section 8 housing. And why is that shit? Well, yeah. If you go down far enough, eventually you reach the Big Bang, but
exactly. See, that's why it's difficult to have these discussions with people, because the online discourse is just a quick, you got to have your comeback now, you have to say this, you have to say that. So then it's really difficult to go down so then let's just go back to like Jim Crow. We're going to start there, and then we're going to tell you why black
move people are the forward.
No one has time for that.
This really weird, I've been hearing this my entire life, this really weird narrative that leftists want white people or men to apologize. I have never in my life heard, even back, guys, I went to a fucking hippie ass college, okay? There were a lot of cringy motherfucking lefties over there. There were a lot of, I swear to God, this is a place where like one like girl in every classroom practiced free bleeding, okay? Didn't fucking run off into the meadows and like do a little fucking female symbol on their forehead in the blood or some shit, okay? I don't know, like this is a very hippie fucking, school, okay? And even in these communities, even in the sociology department, which was mostly leftists, I never heard anyone say white people or men needed to apologize for shit. Maybe be aware of some things, but you don't need to apologize for anything. I've never heard that, but every time I go online, the conservatives, they want you to apologize. I've never heard it before. I don't know. Maybe it's like projection, because they are constantly fucking up their lives and they have to engage in apologetics over it, because it can never be like the big businessman's fault. It has to be theirs. But so they assume we're doing the same thing. I don't know. Like, it's really, really weird.
Yeah, there's a whole phenomenon of assuming that Twitter discourse is representative of the general public and the general population. And like, if one person wrote an article for Feminism Today and said that, white men need to apologize for this. I mean, I participated in this, so like I did that as well. I fell into those traps where I thought, oh my gosh, why are they having these arguments? Why would they feel this way? These are supposed to be like liberals. These are supposed to be people that want to progress. But then when you look at it, you realize that, oh, it's just literally one article. It's just literally that one school. There's hundreds, thousands of schools, thousands of things that happen daily. But the one small thing where someone says something crazy, we're all going to take them and use them as like the spokesperson for all of the liberal movements. It's like, no, that's just a crazy person. And let's just not listen to them. Let's just move back and let the rational people talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I fell into it on the other side. There was a very brief window of time where I was an insufferable little progressive liberal. And I did the SJW shit. It was for a pretty brief period of time, but I did eventually move off from that. But I remember doing some pretty obnoxious stuff during that period of time. I was a little bit of a woke scold. We maybe have that phase for a brief period of time. But God, it's so frustrating. Yeah, I feel like I might spend the rest of my life, like, let's thanks, Sake. Let's make an incredible assumption and say that I'm still going to be doing this in 2 years. Okay. If we can make that assumption that I'm not going to get deleted or banned or targeted by the Illuminati or something, and I keep going forward and I have a great time with it, I feel like I could be 30, 40, 50 years old and I am still going to be arguing against the stereotype of the Tumblr SJW. Like, it's like this monstrous, like silhouette that scales across the mountain ranges, that every political conversation from this point until the end of history must orient around that stereotype. It makes me want to die, ridiculous. Dude. It's so boring.
No, it's ridiculous. It is so boring. And especially when it's like, why should we care about these I mean, that stereotype. Why should we care about these individuals when, on the other side, in the right wing side, in the conservative side, these people are actually becoming president. They are actually running for office. They're sitting in the Supreme Court. Like, these are the caricatures. This is what a conservative is. I have more issue with that because these people hold power. Whereas that pink-haired SJW at your school that made some comment has zero power. She's not doing anything. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, though, yeah, we're probably gonna keep facing that whole argument of where the SJWs and all that for a while. I'm not sure if anything I said made sense.
No, you did. No, I hope one day we get to go in the offensive, because
Yes.
right now I feel like collectively it's our job to sort of, well, that's what I wanted to do, most importantly, there are a lot of lefties on YouTube that are fairly sensitive people. They're very academic. They're high-minded, they're in many cases very effeminate. Even probably the most outwardly masculine of all of these characters is probably Philosophy Tube, and even he dresses up like a fucking drag queen half the time. And this is great. I love it. I love consuming that media. That's fantastic for me. But I recognize that for a lot of conservative or centrist-y dipshit people, this is very off-putting. It's very emasculating. It's very weird. It doesn't really do much to fight against the stereotypes, So that's why I tried to do what I do. So I'm just like a brusque guy who comes on here and screams and is occasionally problematic and very frequently canceled. And I like that. And I think that that's an important role to serve. And what I really hope is eventually I get to move on from that initial defensive period and I get to take a more aggressive stance where it's not people coming here and I have to prove I'm not like the SJW. It's me talking to them and them having to prove they're not the lunatic fucking conservative sociopath. That's what they feel defensive over. That people like Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder aren't out there proudly advocating for the end of the quarantine or proudly talking about how they personally wish that they could separate babies at the border. They're out there trying to be the nicest little babies on earth to try and keep people from associating them with the stereotype that's destructive to their image. If we can move to that point, I will be so fucking happy.
That's awesome. I think we are getting there. I think we certainly are getting there for sure. I think it's getting to a point where people are starting to ignore the caricatures of, this person's a snowflake SJW or whatever the case might be. And now we're all all eyes, I think, are on the right now. They're trying to see what's going to happen. There's a right-wing president, and there's a lot of his influences happening. So I think we are moving in that direction for sure, and I'm excited for sure.
Especially since they're the real snowflakes. Frankly, they're the most obscenely thin-skinned motherfuckers I have ever. Holy shit, dude, it's insane. I mean, I could literally list like every single conservative YouTuber and think of like pertinent examples, but like no bullshit has recently taken a habit of showing up in my YouTube feed to like shit talk, and then when someone's like, "Hey, fucking debate him," he'll be like, "Oh, my Discord broke, whoops," and he'll run away. Like, but like it is very funny. It is very funny to me. I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. I hope that like that's a narrative we can move towards soon. I actually have another question. Have you ever? This is totally unrelated, by the way. Have you ever felt tokenized as a Black woman in the left or like more in the skeptosphere?
Both. I think just being a Black woman in general, whatever side I pick, they're going to take my ideas and try to say, okay, this Black woman said this, therefore I'm allowed to say this or I'm allowed to do this. Especially when I started doing my videos, I sort of wanted to help the Black community and to help people that are, I guess, involved in politics and are Black, and felt that, there's a lot of chaos happening. People are talking about Black Lives Matter, and take a step back and try to understand what's going on. So I did find that, and that's something I'm still trying to work on, and maybe you could give me some advice on that, where I would want to, discuss something that is true to me. So let's see. We may disagree on this, but I think that someone should be allowed to use the N-word when they're singing a song. Because I feel like when you go to a concert, the majority of people there are white, like a rapper's concert. The majority of people are white. They're all screaming the N-word. Like, come on, guys. But now
I know a Black woman agrees with me.
Exactly. See, so I don't know what to do, because it's like I do agree with that, but then they take that and take it a step further and say, therefore, I can say it whenever I want. It's like, no, yeah, it's difficult for sure.
No, because it adds like an extra weight to everything you say. It's kind of like the weight of. Oh, sorry.
No, I just get a lot of messages where people are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I found you as a Black woman who, shows me that like I can hold these ideas." And I'm like, dude, just don't. I don't know. I can't run away from it, obviously.
Yeah. No, I get you. I mean, I feel like there's probably there are probably like different levels of it that are different levels of toxicity. I imagine that you being able to like say your opinion probably is pretty inspirational to a lot of black women who, are on YouTube, and that's fantastic, I think. And I think most people would agree that's pretty agreeable. But then there's like like you said, like I can say the N-word now. I had a cool black chick say it was okay. Like, I get it. You know what's funny is one of the best arguments for CEOs being compensated the amount that they are is because every thing they say is representative of their company. I think, it's my hot take, all minorities should be getting a stipend from the government because you motherfuckers are doing the exact same thing. Every time you open your mouth, you're representing, apparently, an entire group behind you. So it feels only fair some compensation be meted out to warrant that burden,
Yes, exactly. Completely agree.
The real argument for reparations.
The real argument for. Oh gosh, what were your thoughts on Black Lives Matter actually, like when they first started?
I mean, I've always been very pro Black Lives Matter. I feel like they engaged really responsibly in their messaging. There were only a few protests that went really bad. Out of thousands. That's pretty good. There was that one. Who was that one guy? He shot like 5 cops or something. That was really devastating for the movement.
Yeah. Yes. I forgot his name, but yeah, I remember that.
Ready? Oh yes, Hyena, I agree. Yes, please give me chicken nuggies. All right, sorry, just coordinating pre-stream meal or post-stream meal.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that they did a really good job with their messaging for the most part. I feel like one big fuck up they did was when that one, I think she was one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. She took the stage along with 2 other women when Bernie Sanders was speaking publicly, and they took the mic. Now, I don't disagree at all with what they were doing from like a moral perspective, but optically that made them look crazy. I think it made Bernie look good because he stepped back and let them take the stage, which I think that's cool. But at the same time, like one of the biggest insults that the right has is that the crazy SJW progressives will never be satisfied by anything, like ever. Yeah. You can give them everything in the world and they're still going to take more. So when you're going up on stage of Bernie Sanders, probably the most left-leaning person to have a serious shot at the presidency in a century, and you still go up there and you're like, you white people need to listen, that does kind of, make you seem like you're unpleasable. I think that was the big fuck up. I can't hold BLM responsible for that one lunatic who shot the 5 cops, though. Obviously that's outside their control.
Oh yeah, and that was the issue with the whole, or what I found with the issue with the whole movement is that, or why I felt like I disagreed with them at the time was because it was this whole blanket statement of Black Lives Matter. It wasn't like there are different chapters who have different leaders who do different things. So there could be that, like, the We Was Kings people where they believe they're
We had to talk about that yesterday on stream. Yeah, those guys are real funny.
So it's like if someone that's a part of that group wants to create a Black Lives Matter movement and call themselves Black Lives Matter and go to a protest and cause chaos, then that's going to be that's Black Lives Matter for you. So a big, I guess, issue with that was that people didn't really understand, and I also didn't really understand that there are different camps and there are different people involved that are actually doing incredible things, really, really cool things, and all of that is being done behind closed doors, whereas the craziest ones are the ones that you see on screen. In fact, if I want to know anything about a movement or anything, I wouldn't pick the person that I'm seeing as the spokesperson. I would look inside like their website and try to understand it better, because they always try to find someone that is the loudest, the craziest to get the attention and everything. And of course, Fox News will popularize the
right. Like look at these crazies. Yeah.
Look at these. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's so sad. It's so sad. The media, man.
Yeah. Do you know what's fucking crazy though? This is the truest shit I've ever just thought of in my entire life, dude. Maybe protests are outdated. What if everyone who had participated in Black Lives Matter had just done a general strike? I feel like, what if they worked together and tried to build like a political coalition? Like, hey, us Black Americans, we're being fucked around way too much. Political coalition. We're gonna representatively like elect officials. We're going to have our shit sent to Washington. This is like a 2 million strong person like coalition. Like, I feel like if every single person who participated in Black Lives Matter just joined with like Black Lives Matter, like the caucus, like did try to do some Tea Party shit, except 10 times bigger. Holy fuck, that would have been incredible. That's way harder to straw man because protests will always eventually lead to rioting,
Yeah.
inevitably. Like that's just a long term. Two, it means that you can dissociate yourself from any specific outliers because like a caucus isn't really associated if like one black guy shoots 5 cops, for example. Like that's not really. It's easier to dissociate. And three, I feel like that would affect more long term change. We didn't get much from BLM. We still
Yeah.
haven't gotten much from BLM. Which really sucks. I mean, we got the federal investigations into Ferguson and Baltimore, and that was good. But
Mhm.
apart from
Yeah.
that,
There were different chapters that were involved in creating rehabilitation centers for inner areas that had, sorry, prisons. There was another chapter that worked on private school tutoring for Black students who didn't have like a good home or didn't like their school. So there are all these, that's why it sucked about it is that, yeah, you're right. There wasn't like a collective thing where they all agreed on this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to vote on it. This is what we want versus, these different groups doing their own thing. And this makes it another issue of Black Lives Matter in LA versus Black Lives Matter in South Carolina.
yeah.
They want different things, right? They need different things. So it's hard to really create policy or do anything when it's like, no, we don't need police to stop because police isn't coming in our area, and the other side's like, no, there's just too many police. So it's difficult. Why is the U.S. so big? You guys should just like separate into different.
Canada is the second biggest country on the planet.
No, sorry, I meant more of the population, and I meant like the different cultures and subgroups and stuff.
Yeah, America is like crazy diverse. A lot of people, this is one of the things that really bothers me about the white nationalists. They're like, we got to protect our culture. What the fuck is American culture?
Oh,
somebody
God.
tell me, please God, somebody tell me. You take any value, any fucking value, and I promise you, half the population fervently disagrees, and some of the people who disagree were part of the fucking founding stock of the country. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like this is, no, mind you, I'm not anti-protest. I'm very pro-protest. I love protests. They're great, fantastic. I don't go to them. That would mean going
I hate
outside.
protests.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay inside, but you guys can do it. I'm pro you guys doing it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally in favor of that. But I feel like as media gets more centralized and less decentralized, it becomes harder for local protests to have the outcome people want. Because, like you just said, different protests in different states for different movements, for different groups of people. If Black Lives Matter isn't the same in LA as it is in South Carolina, but the media is going to end up picking one of those two to focus on, and that's going to end up in everyone's television set. I wonder if it's even possible to facilitate individual or local differences in policy or like populist positions in a national movement. Maybe it would be better, like, if we're going to have a national movement, we have to coordinate those policy positions so we are lockstep no matter what corner of the country you find us in. And if you want to do something local, you can do it, but it is not part of like the official Black Lives Matter movement. It's your own black movement there,
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that would make it easier, and also having like an argument or concise statement or argument of what they're fighting for and everything. And this also has to do with the healthcare thing. This also has to do with literally any type of policy there is. I think everyone just needs to understand this is what it means. This is what we're fighting for. And anything else you hear, they're just trying to lie to you and make it up. This is just the facts. And go from there for sure. It's just, it's difficult when it's like, there's this song. I'm not even going to try. Sorry. There's this weird song where there's a line that said,
no, sing it. You'll do good.
No. It was a rap too. That's hard.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, go for it. Absolutely.
No. There's a line that just said that you don't, when you're in the city, the inner city or the hood or whatever, you don't even realize that there's another world outside of that. And it's so interesting to see that, like, people's day-to-day lives and their realities are so different from each other. And in order to create policy or to create change or do anything, you have to really understand that someone that's living in the inner city and someone that's living literally right outside may never see eye to eye because their realities are so drastically different that it's weird. It's really, I don't know. I find it really interesting.
I grew up in Beverly Hills. That was where my family, So when I it was crazy because I didn't get it. Like when I was young, like Obama got elected, woohoo, But then like fucking one day, like, you wake up and you're like, yeah, everything's going great. 2015, gay marriage has been legalized. You know, everything's on the up and up. Everyone in my fucking neighborhood is all nice and racially integrated because we're all like middle class or upper middle class, so we don't get to see any of the problems with the country. And then like you wake up one day and Trump is president, and like we're actively talking about fucking walling off our southern border. Like, whoo, that took a turn. But because it's really hard. It's hard to relate individual experience to like the national discourse. I think. I don't think like humans weren't meant to do this. Like,
No.
yeah, we had tribes of 200 or so people. Like, that's what we had, you know. Now
Yeah.
people have to be simultaneously capable of managing the political discourse within their family, their neighborhood, their city, their state, and their country. And then the world. I don't think we're meant to do this, but so
Yeah.
maybe that's why we don't do that good of a job at it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's so
have
depressing.
I'm gonna have to go off pretty soon for
No
chicken
worries.
nugget related reasons. But before I do that, I want to ask you, what are your plans for the future?
Oh, what are my plans for this week? Take advantage of quarantine and make more video essays, and yeah, that's yeah, essentially it. I'm gonna try to create more videos and try to get back into the whole YouTube world, and try to find where I guess my where I oh god, no pressure at all. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just gonna create more videos and yeah, try to do more of those. I'm very very excited, but I'm also really really nervous because a big chunk of my subscribers are conservative, or they were more of like the anti-sjw crowd, and I really really want to help them see the light, and I've been trying to figure out exactly how to do that. It's taken me like a year, starting off with obviously talking to you and asking for your advice in some of these things, but yeah, I want to do so much. I just need to find out how to do it essentially, and that's what I'm figuring out.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I actually did take a look at. Wait, hold on. I forget the name, and I don't want to embarrass myself. I actually did take a look at two of your most recent videos.
Oh Lord.
The fucking YouTube. Fuck up the title. Embarrass myself any further. Yeah, I did take a look at two of your most recent videos to see how things progressed. And there's obviously like a huge shift in like in tone and like presentation between that and the videos from 3 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
the Jesse Smollett one and the Covington High School ones were
Yeah.
were the two that I
Wait,
checked
those
out.
were the that's with National Post. If you want to watch something, please watch my like Why the Black Community is Poor or like TPUSA videos. I'm really proud of those ones. So if you want to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
absolutely. Okay. Well, okay. Well, then, for what it's worth, your work with the National Post has been great. And by the way, so I assume you're a journalism student. Were a journalism
no,
student.
yeah, political science, but close
Oh,
enough.
gotcha. Hey, I took political science before I switched my major.
Nice.
Anyway, I wish you the absolute best of luck with the channel, with the National Post, and with the quarantine.
Yeah.
I hope you have a huge amount of fun with that. And seriously, good luck.
Thank you, and thank you for talking to me. This
Hey,
is awesome.
no, thank you so much. I really appreciated the conversation. It was a lot of fun. Anytime, and yeah, feel free to hit me up in the future if you ever want to talk.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good one. Trans rights.
Trans
Yeah,
rights.
yeah. Peace out. Knew I shouldn't have said that peace out. She closed it right as I said it. Now I'm the beta. Ha! That was a great convo. Wow. Beta! That was a really great conversation.